Good evening and welcome to the January 26, 2023 meeting of the Longview City Council. Tonight, our prayer and pledge will be presented and led by Roxanne Stevenson with Martin House Child Advocacy Center, which is a child-focused center dedicated to reducing trauma and promoting healing for children who are victims of abuse or witnesses of violent crimes. Roxanne is joined by Rainey, a certified service dog who provides support and comfort for the children at the center or sometimes even in the courtroom. Welcome. Please rise.
Please pray with me. Wise and loving God, we bow our heads and lift our grateful hearts to thank you, Lord, for your grace and goodness. Thank you for giving us this glorious day and the opportunities we all have to be a blessing to others. Please be with our dedicated city staff, council members, and public servants, and guide them with your wisdom and strength so they may continue to lead our beautiful city and serve all citizens for your glory. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Roxanne. Thank you for what you all do for those children. Before we get started, I would also like to once again welcome Sheriff Maxey in our chambers tonight. Thank you for being here, sir. Always a pleasure to have you join us. We're now at your presentation, a presentation of the status of the Longview Firemen's Relief and Retirement Fund. Lindsay Redmond.
Hello, good evening everyone. So my name is Lindsay Redmond. This is Taylor Walling. We are both plan actuaries at Foster & Foster, and Foster & Foster is currently the plan actuary for the Longview Firemen's Relief and Retirement Fund. So basically what we do, on an annual basis, we provide updated reports with, up-to-date assets and liabilities, and basically, just showing those assets, liabilities, and other important funding measurements and information, just to ensure that, we're in a good standing with purposes of, funding the retirement benefits and being able to pay those benefits to current and future retirees. So with the Longview Firefighter Fund, I think the most important issues that are the funded status and then just, the unfunded liabilities. So, to kind of help that out, we've been, increasing city contribution rates. We've been, decreasing benefits, even created a tier 2 structure. But, with all of these changes that we have been making, the amortization period is still infinite, and even, for, looking at the solvency of the plan, if nothing else was done, the plan would be projected to run out of money, within 30 years. And so we're basically, here to just give an update on, all the changes that occurred in 2022 with the approval of the pension obligation bond from the May 2022 election. So if we look at this first slide, so I wanted to look at the most recent actuarial evaluation, which was as of end of year 2021. At this point, the city contribution rate was 19% of payroll. The member contribution rate, depending on whether they were tier 1 or tier 2, was either 15% or 17%. So total, this is 34 to 36% of payroll coming into the fund as contributions. So the normal cost rate, the normal cost is basically the cost of the benefits accruing throughout a certain year. So for through 2022, that normal cost rate was the 16.76%. So currently, the contributions coming into the fund, are well in excess of that normal cost, and so anything in excess of the normal cost, is allocated towards paying off that unfunded liability. And so, in our projection period, that annual amount was ranging from 18.7% up to around 20%. And so for the unfunded liability, as of this valuation date, it was $73.3 million. And at that point, the funded ratio was about 40.5% funded, which is significantly low. And the annual payroll for 2022 was going to be around $14.7 million. Throughout our projection period, this amount is projected to grow at 3%. This is the assumption we use in the valuation. And so, as the payroll grows, so are the contributions coming into the fund. And so, of course, the payment to pay off the unfunded liability is also increasing. But overall, as of that valuation date, the amortization period was still, infinite. It would not amortize the unfunded liabilities. And at that point, like I said earlier, the plan was projected to run out of money within 30 years. So like I said, we've increased contributions coming into the fund. We've, decreased benefits, created a tier 2 structure, but, we've done everything we can. But at this point, the best thing to do was to to issue the pension obligation bond. So if we go to the next. Okay, so there was an outside actuarial firm that proposed and recommended a $45.6 million pension obligation bond to be, a step in the right direction to, get this plan, more funded and, to make it just a step in the right direction to help ensure the long-term solvency of the fund. So back in May of 2022, voters approved of this bond and the funds were deposited in July. The issue, I guess, in 2022, the stock market performance was poor. And, in the first half of 2022, there was a significant decline. So in terms of the timing of the funds that were deposited, it I guess, escaped those losses that would have occurred in the first half of the year, if those funds have to been deposited at the beginning of the year. So I guess we have that, in our favor. And so, of course, as of now, we have the end of year 2022 valuation coming up, but, that report won't be done until later in this year. So I guess, as of now, we really don't know what the impact will be given, the 2022 stock market performance and all of that. But as of 2021, as the end of year 2021 valuation, in terms looking at the results to see what the impact of the pension obligation bond was, to value it as of the valuation date, we needed to discount the value of the pension obligation bond as of the beginning of the year. And so we did that using the assumed 7.5% interest rate. And so whenever we did our analysis, we used the discounted pension obligation bond value of $43.9 million. So now I want to look at what the actuarial valuation results would have been if the pension obligation bond would have been invested at the beginning of the year. So city contribution rate actually decreased effective July 21. The city actually decreased their contribution rates into the fund to 12%, and so that previously it was 19%. So that 7%, is geared towards helping assist whenever those bond payments come due. That 7% is supposed to help pay those bond payments. So yeah, the city contribution rate decreased to 12%. Member contribution rate stayed the same, 15% or 17%. And so, of course, with lower contribution rates coming into the plan, the annual amount that's available to pay off that unfunded liability also decreased. So you're seeing, instead of 18.7% to 20%, you're only seeing the 11.7 to 13%. However, the good news is, looking at the unfunded liabilities, previously, it was $73.3 million. Now, applying that pension obligation bond to $43.9 million, we have an unfunded liability of only $29.4 million. As I stated before, the annual payroll, $14.7 million, that was the same as previously, and it's still projected to grow at 3% per year. And so also, those unfunded liability payments, as the payroll and the contributions coming into the fund increase, so will the dollar amount of the payments coming in to pay off that unfunded liability. So with all of those changes, decreasing the city contribution rate and applying the the pension obligation bond value, we stand at an amortization period of 27.5 years. But of course, like I said, this is, as of end of year 2021, this is not reflecting any of the stock market performance in 2022. But the good news is, of course, previously the plan was projected to run out of money within 30 years, and now we're seeing that the plan is projected to remain solvent. So that is really good news. And so, that just means, the plan is in good shape throughout the projection period. The assets aren't planned to, run out of money. So in that sense, we're good. But like I said, we don't really know where we're truly at until, the December 31st, 2022 valuation is complete. So just kind of, so this is just a table of just showing a comparison of the valuation date versus the valuation reflecting the pension obligation bond. So as you can see, previously the funded ratio as of that date was 40.5%. The valuation reflecting the pension obligation bond, that funded ratio is now 76.1%. And as I said before, the amortization period is the 27.5 years. One other thing I wanted to mention is since the fund is not expected to run out of money in terms of GASB accounting, previously I want to say that the December 31st, 2021 funded status was 25.34%. But since the plan was expected to run out of money, for GASB purposes, we use a blended rate between the bond and then the assumed rate of return that the fund is expected, which is a 7.5. I will say that, with the plan not being expected to run out of money, that means, for purposes of city financial statements, those would improve because, the plan would not be expected to cross over. And so for GASB purposes, we would be able to use, the 7.5% rate instead of the blended rate of 3.32% that was used at the end of year 2021 valuation. And so now I just want to look ahead, from in terms of looking at this, what the valuation that will be coming out in July and beyond. So now that the city decreased their contributions in the fund, the total contribution rate will be about 27 to 29% of annual payroll. In terms of the normal cost, so as of the end of year 2021, the normal cost was, the 16.76%. But we will see, as time goes on, that normal cost, which is the cost of accruing benefits throughout the year, you will see that will decrease as the Tier 1 members, retire and are replaced with Tier 2 members. One other thing I wanted to mention is that the net cash flow is negative. So that just means that the contributions coming into the fund do not cover the annual benefit payments coming out of the fund. And so previously, before the pension obligation bond was passed, for a while the 7.5 assumed rate of return was covering or kind of offsetting, I guess you could say, the negative cash flow. However, at some point it got to be where the expected rate of return would not fully offset the benefit payments coming out of the fund. And so that's kind of why you saw it. Eventually the plan was going to run out of money. Now with the increased asset value, you're seeing that, throughout the projection period, yes, the cash flow or the net cash flow is still going to be negative, but you will see that, the 7.5 return on, a higher asset value is a higher dollar value. And so, that is completely offsetting throughout the entire projection period. And like I said, our actuarial valuation reports typically are delivered in July. And so, we really won't see the impact of what the stock or the impact that the stock market had on the assets until, we get those finalized asset statements. But like I said, some of this stuff, like the stock market and stuff, that's out of our control. So, I mean, in terms of, the voters approving of the bond and stuff, that was a critical step. And in terms of, keeping the plan solvent and, being able to pay out those promised benefits to future and current firefighters. But like I said, it's out of our control. But, as the time, in the near future, this year and beyond, we plan to diligently look into, the plan, make sure, we're still on the right track to make sure that, the plan remains solvent. We're seeing good progress in terms of, the funded status and all of that. So are there any questions?
Any questions of Ms. Redmond? Mr. Carpenter?
There was a comment that you made that we're continuing to operate in a net cash flow negative after we've invested an additional $45.6 million.
So the net cash flow is just the contribution, the percentage of payroll coming in. So as of the 2021 valuation, that was about 14.7 million was what the annual payroll was. And so previously, before the pension obligation bond was passed, and the city was contributing 19%, there was about, I think, estimated for 2022, about like a $5.2 million flat contribution going into the fund. But with, I'm not entirely sure what the projected benefit payments were for coming out of the fund, but it's where the cash flow is negative. So, when you apply that pension obligation bond, the city, is now contributing 12%. So that when I say the net cash flow is negative, it's not taking into account any investment returns. It's not taking into account the pension obligation bond value. It's just taking into account strictly what is being put into the fund through the flat contribution rate, and then it's also taking into account any benefit payments that are being paid out.
Okay, so the money that we currently had invested prior to the election, we'll get that report mid-year, is that right? When will we know what all the investments are doing?
We won't know about
July.
what the rate of return on the portfolio will be until we get the finalized asset statements. And like I said, typically the valuation report will come out in July.
Okay, and the last question, we heard a lot of talk going into the election. As we speak tonight, is this council in compliance with Gatsby?
Yes. One other thing I did want to mention is the Texas Pension Review Board. They set funding guidelines, and one of their guidelines is that plans that don't have an amortization period greater than 30 years should seek to reduce their amortization period no later than mid-year 2025. And so, with the amortization period being not being able to amortize the unfunded liabilities, we were significantly far away from that,
But
happening.
we're within their window now?
Yes. So as of applying the pension obligation bond value to the 2021 valuation results, yes, we are in compliance with the funding guidelines set by the Texas Pension Review Board. Okay. As of 2022, like I said, we really don't know just because we don't have that information yet. But typically those reports are sent out in July.
Can I add a
Ms.
quick comment?
Thank you, ladies.
Yeah, sorry, I just want to add a quick comment. The actuary does it annually, so the investments are reviewed monthly and reported quarterly, and Colby back there can answer any investment return questions you have, but the actuary doesn't receive it from our investment portfolio, so she doesn't know, but that information is available.
Any other questions? Mr. Pirtle?
So how much are we putting out every month versus what we're bringing in?
In terms of
Dollar figure.
in terms of like the contributions versus benefit
Are we
pay?
losing 100,000 a month? Are we losing 50,000 a month? We're losing 200,000 a month?
I would have to go back and actually look at those numbers, but as of now, it's not as extensive, but whenever I was looking at the projections earlier, of course, the amount of contributions coming in are increasing just because, the amount of payroll is expected to increase, but we're also seeing, more benefit payments coming out in the future. I guess just, as the inactive population increases as well. And then, of course, if any retirement or retirees, elect to receive drop and stuff, that plays a factor in it as well.
At the same time, our investments are going down right now.
Depending on the stock market, yeah.
Well, that's in everybody's 401k or SEP
Right.
account.
Right.
Understand that.
And that's something,
But
we don't have control over.
We don't have an estimated figure of how much we're losing over the last year every month or gaining over the last year every month?
We do have an asset team that looks at that. I did look, because I think we did receive, the end of November statements. I didn't look into any calculations as to, what the actual return of the fund was. But those numbers won't be,
Well, ma'am, dollar figures mean a lot to us other than,
Right.
telling us figures of what goes up and what goes down. Those dollar figures are hard to dispute. So that's what I was looking for. I've been told all over the map that we're gaining, we're losing, and everything else, and I thought that's what y'all would be able to tell us tonight at that point, not just percentages and projections, because I'm in the same thing with my retirement. I can see it doing it every month. But I know what I lose every month on a statement versus what I gain. So I'm assuming that was what we were going to have tonight to look at.
Well, perhaps then what we want is the investment advisor to come speak to us as opposed, because the actuary is projections and
Right.
looking at the future and telling us if the fund is, solvent.
Yeah,
So
but
if we want to
Kristen,
have
we're
the
looking at
investment
what's
person.
happening now.
I'm just saying she's not the right
monthly.
person to answer the question.
True.
So if you want to come to the pension board meetings, I suggest doing that monthly.
might do that.
You
Might do
should.
that.
If you want the investment advisor to come advise us, we can ask them to come.
Well,
That's no
I
problem.
think you should.
But this is just the wrong person to answer that question.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening. We are now to citizen comment. I do have one speaker card. Joshua Lakey Henson.
I'm supposed to say my address and
Name and address, please, sir.
Joshua Lakey Henson, 1606 Shelley Street, Longview, Texas. I didn't used to be big on getting rid of Confederate statues. It just seemed like a symbolic move. Yet here in Longview, Confederates have resorted to assault and harassment multiple times without consequence, even when caught on camera. The same police department that has given me a cavity search and locked me up over sidewalk chalk has turned a blind eye to the unexcusable behavior of the Confederates. I can only imagine the injustices that have befallen those who have not been given the voice that I've been given. Every year on or right after MLK Day, Confederates celebrate Confederate Heroes Day on the courthouse grounds. Before Chelsea Laurie made a stand, these gatherings used to have well over 100 people. Confederates would shoot their guns, spread their misinformation, fly their flags, and claim their flags are more legitimate than the U.S. flag, all while getting free promotion to do so on our courthouse grounds. If you're a little white boy seeing this massive monument that towers over the World War II monument, hedges around it, preventing people from getting too close, the words "Our Confederate Heroes" etched into stone, and how it's given adoration, who wouldn't be proud of that heritage? It's empowering if you're a child ignorant of history. I know some Confederates that have uplifting, humorous, even kind dispositions, some that will swear they're not racist, some that would give the shirt off their back and cook a meal for a black person in need. But if they took a second to read Alexander H. Stephens' cornerstone speech, it makes the racism impossible to deny. The cornerstone of the Confederacy rests upon the great truth that the Negro is not equal to the white man, that slavery, subordination to the superior race, is his natural and normal condition. A stark contrast to the Declaration of Independence, which states, "We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We have preachers, city officials, judges, small business owners, and police officers holding positions of power and influence who hold their tongues against these anti-American sentiments. This sets a poor example to everyone in the community and teaches our children being a hypocrite is okay, or that children grow up to be so sickened with the hypocrisy that they just leave. We should not forget that Robert E. Lee said, "I think it wiser not to keep open the sores of war, but to follow the examples of those nations who endeavored to obliterate the marks of civil strife, to commit to oblivion the feelings engendered." I urge anyone who hears this to sign the petition Chelsea Laurie started 2 years ago
Sir.
to remove the monument. If we fail, I fear it will be
Sir,
put
your
yet
time
another
is up.
stamp of approval on this unacceptable behavior. Thank you.
I have no more speaker cards. We will now move to public safety update. Chief Boone?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council, Mr. McPhee. First, I want to cover our stats from December on our customer survey and point out there that we had about 6,500 notifications that were sent out over the month of December, and with 1,722 follow-up surveys sent out. And you can see the numbers there. We had a 4.86 out of 5 on how satisfied were you with the professionalism of the Longview police officer you spoke with. And then also we had a 4.79 out of 5 on our experience with the dispatcher that you spoke with. And I also wanted, we had a meeting today with our company that hosts this for us, and they gave us some annual stats, and I'll have more of this next meeting. But we actually, over our annual score on the police officer side was a 4.72 on your customer satisfaction. As you can see, that's very close to the very satisfied 5 score. And he also told us that the other agencies throughout the nation that use this software as well had an average of about 4.47. So you can see we're scoring even above the other agencies that elect to see how they're doing. So I was very proud of those numbers today. Also, I want to highlight our post unit and Mr. Adams. Mr. Adams, you can see there on the left side when Officer Birdsong first met him, and you can see Mr. Adams last Friday when he was receiving an award from us at the municipal court. Mr. Adams elected to go through a program hosted by New Creation Foundation's Ministries, and Officer Birdsong was along with him all through that entire process. And because of that, we did a diversion program with the municipal court that helped with fees and fines. And you can, again, see what he's doing today. And that sculpture you see there was actually created by him. So he had gone to school for this years ago and had kind of gotten out of that, but now he has gone back to doing that. And very, very impressive. We're very proud of Mr. Adams and our post unit. Today also we had the Homeless Outreach Day, and I can't take credit for that. That's Miss Laura Hill and Alicia Kidd Brooks that put in all the work to make this happen, but we were a part of that, and we're very proud to be part of that. And I think we had 370 people that came through today and had over 80 volunteers assisting with this, so it was a very, very good day. I also want to thank the organizers of the MLK events over last weekend, and appreciate the invite for the parade itself. So there's myself and the crew that came out, and we had our armored vehicle, our golf cart that's marked as a police vehicle, and one of our Tahoes as well. And had a great time getting to talk to folks and hang out, and definitely appreciate the invite. Also, we have some tenures to recognize. We had 5 years with Mr. Cody Sprayberry, one of our midnight officers. Ron Duncan, one of our post officers. He's celebrating 10 years. Lieutenant Kevin Freeman over criminal investigations. He's celebrating 15 years. And then not pictured were Sergeant Purdon with 15 years and Officer Jimmy Redmond with 20 years. And with that, I'd answer any questions.
Any questions for Chief Boone?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to see the picture of Miss Snotty in the turret on the SWAT vehicle.
I'll see what I can do for you, sir.
Thank you.
Chief Stillman?
Good evening, Mayor Mack, members of council, Mr. McPhee. Thank you for the opportunity and the time to update you on some activities in the fire department since our last meeting. Last year, at one of the last council meetings, you guys approved us to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Texas A&M Forest Service where we could do some combined training for our wildland side of the fire department for the firefighters that are specially trained to go out and fight wildland fires in the urban interface environment. And I just wanted to follow up on that to let you know that training took place. This is at where our training field is being relocated out in the South Business Park. You can see in that picture on the right how thick some of the wooded area is out there. So there's plenty of opportunity to get a lot of good hands-on saw training. And it's not that our personnel don't know how to operate chainsaws. They do that all the time in the course of fighting a fire, cutting buildings apart to be able to access the fire, but cutting them in a wildland environment and under fire conditions is a whole different spectrum of the job. So this was a great opportunity to give them some good training, some good hands-on as far as how to reduce and remove fuel in the path of a large-scale wildfire. So again, thank you guys for doing this. Lots of hand-on saw time was available, and that last thing was supposed to show you the tree falling, but it fell, I promise you. There's plenty more opportunity out there, so I'm sure we'll be doing some reoccurring training until we get everybody some good hands-on time and we get some of the wood thinned out there, which is also helping us with moving the training field relocation project forward. So it's kind of cool to have the two things working together. Oh, there you go. All right. Tenure breakfast also, we had some members of our department that were recognized in the recent tenure breakfast. They're pictured in the center in between Assistant Chief Green and Jones is Captain Ryan Nicholson on the left with 15 years of service and Captain Jeremy Gothard on the right with 20 years of service. Also recognized in that ceremony but weren't able to be there to be pictured, Captain Ryan Howard with 15 years, firefighter medic Chris McMillan with 15 years, and EMS building specialist Ashley Roseborough with 5 years. So we're proud of their accomplishments and we look forward to more good solid work from each and every one of them. Our community Stop the Bleed classes are continuing. This is a great opportunity for, as an individual, a household, or a business, to get some good free hands-on training and some life-saving training. The next class is offered at 6 p.m. on Monday, February the 13th at our training center. You can go to the website there and get yourself registered. There's always room, and we encourage people to, if you haven't ever been, to take advantage of this, because the actions that you learn and the skills you learn in this might give you the course of action to save somebody's life. And once again, I'd like to also promote that our annual Railroad Tank Car Safety Specialist course is currently accepting registration, and there's still plenty of room in that. So if you're interested, check that out. There's the flyer. And this is one of only a few places in the country where this specialized hazardous materials training is available, because we have such great corporate partners here in Longview with Trinity Industries, Texas Eastman, UP Rail, BNSF. We've just got all the ingredients to make this a great school and a great location to have it. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Chief Stillman? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
Something we need to know, Chief, you interviewing for another job somewhere or what?
I'm sorry.
Just curious. Not used to seeing you like that. We're glad to know that. Thank you. We're now at consent agenda. Any items council like pull off for separate discussion? Not, is there a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We're on to action item. Consider a resolution approving and adopting the fiscal year 2021 revised annual action plan documents for the scope work for community development block grant. Mr. Dakota Brown. Sorry, I didn't give you much time. Warning there. Sorry
It's
about
all
that.
good. I'm going to be brief. You guys have a small summary in front of you of what we're going to be trying to do. Initially, whenever we presented this action plan to you guys for the 2021 fiscal year, the scope of work for this project was only to assess the flooring. Whenever the organization was doing their due diligence for said flooring, they found out that there was asbestos, and we would like to now amend that scope of work to include an asbestos abatement to where we can continue to move along with this contract.
This does require a public hearing, which is now open. Any questions of Dakota? Any comments? Public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Now consider an ordinance amending the budget to appropriate $150,646 from the city's American Rescue Plan Act for the purchase of an armored rescue vehicle shared by Longview Police Department and the Gray County Sheriff's Department. Chief Boone.
Mr. Council, Mr. Mayor, Mr. McPhee. I'm going to talk about B and C together if I could. B is the funding, and then C is the actual permission to make the purchase of the armored rescue vehicle. This vehicle that you're looking at right here is the one that is currently owned by Gregg County that we use with Gregg County. We have a combined special tactics team that consists of Longview Police Department and the Gregg County Sheriff's Office. We've partnered for almost 20 years, if not longer than that. This equipment was purchased in 2008 through Gregg County, but with funding from Homeland Security. Those funds are not as readily available anymore. This piece of equipment's been used on many operations over the years, and there are 2 occasions where it has actually received rounds. It has been shot. We've had glass replaced on it 2 different times. We've had to have it repainted, but fortunately it did what it was supposed to do, and it saved lives. Current model that you see is also, it's a 2-door unit. So you'd ask maybe, well, why a second vehicle? This one would be a purchase with a combined effort between the county and the police department. What it also allows us to do is, first of all, there's some maintenance that needs to be done on the current vehicle with its age. We do have some glazing that's going on the glass. It still will do what it's supposed to do, but so that we can actually maintain that, it may require it to be out of service for an extended period of time, so it gives us that option to handle those repairs. And then also, when you have them both functional, lots of times on a bigger operation, especially if you have anybody that's shooting rounds indiscriminately, you want one piece of equipment to be cover for your officers, and you want the other piece of equipment to be able to evacuate any neighbors or anybody in the surrounding area. So having 2 pieces of equipment is very useful. The county did, this went before Commissioner's Court on January 9th, and it was approved by the Commissioner's Court, and we bring it to you now. The amount is $150,646 through the ARPA funds, and we do expect to get 15+ years of life out of this piece of equipment. And with that, I will answer any questions.
Any question for Chief Moon? We will have 2 votes on this. The first will need for the amendment of the budget.
Make a motion.
We have a motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we need a motion for the purchase of the armored rescue vehicle. Is there a motion?
I make a motion.
And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all. Thank you, sir. We're now to items of community interest. Mr. Carpenter.
Thank you, Mayor. Pirates in the Pines, February the 4th, 2023. Do you have my other slide with it? Yep. Pine Tree ISD Expedition 2023, February 16th at Mod Cobb. You'll have student demonstrations, performances, administrators will be there, the students and the staff. I want to thank Aspire Mentoring for inviting me to read the mayor's proclamation. It was a quite interesting day at 41 degrees and raining, but Mayor, we got it done, and thank you for writing that proclamation. We were going to try to find something that the city owns next year, possibly indoors. If you haven't had a chance to get out and see the completion of most of Station 5 out on Niblick and Pine Tree, you need to get by there and take a look at it. That's the first firehouse I've ever seen in my life that had overhead doors that don't go up and down. They swing. And I asked the question, and they said they can get out of there faster and they're more dependable. Very unique door. So get a chance to look at it. The bushes are up, the lights are up, the parking lots are in. It just really is a great looking facility. The inside looks pretty nice too. Still working on a little bit on the old end and the remodeled end, but they're getting there. And last but not least, thanks to Dietrich and Nona and everybody that made me feel so welcome at the MLK celebration. We had a good time. I got to ride on Nona's bus, and we really had a good time. Got to see Broughton firsthand, and got to hear some stories that could not be verified about Councilman Wade and his basketball prowess, but he claims they're different. So anyway, just a great day, and I enjoyed it, and thank you all. Thanks, sir.
Sonny.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you to staff, community, and volunteers for your efforts during the MLK event. Just wanted to say, I did get a couple of phone calls regarding the ribbon cutting, and I want to apologize to those that didn't get an opportunity to participate or witness the ribbon cutting during the event. So I wanted to extend that. You know, like with any event, you have you have some positives and you have some negatives. But I think on that day, the positives definitely outweighed any negatives. So thank you, and thank all you guys who came out to support.
Thank you, Mr. Wade.
Yes, first and foremost, aforementioned ribbon cutting. I'd like to thank everyone that came out to Broughton for MLK Day. It was a really great day, and it was a good day for me to witness not only the very first Broughton Recreation Center opening back in 1978, but to also be able to witness the renovations of Broughton Recreation Center in 2023, and to do that as a member of this illustrious council. So thank you to everyone that worked so hard to put that on and to organize that in the city, to get behind it and show the importance of MLK Day. It's well appreciative, and to everyone that came out. And the next picture there is my personal ID card from 1978-79, and the gentleman with me is Mr. Paul Borman, and his signature is actually on the back of that card, and I had a pleasure or the honor of meeting him. And so it was a full circle moment in life, and once again, we can't do it without the work that everyone in the city does to make these types of events happen. So thank you guys for that.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Ishihara.
Yeah, I do have one tonight.
I'm sorry, I thought you were there.
One more.
I'm sorry.
I have to recognize this, the Unity Honors Luncheon. All right, it's Wednesday. I know you enjoyed mine so much. That, there's nothing that could come after Mr. Borman. I get it. So, but I'll be quick. Unity Honors Luncheon, Wednesday, February 15th, 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Tickets are available online, $25, longviewtexas.gov/Unity Honors. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Ishihara.
Thank you. Actually, with that segue, I bet Mr. Wade didn't see her, but one of our honorees, Amanda VZ with One Love Longview, is back there. So glad to have you here tonight. My community interest right there is Spay It Forward. So I would love, and the Animal Care and Adoption Center would love your assistance in spreading the word about this program. You've heard me brag about our new facility many times, and our intake numbers of unwanted animals here in Longview continue to go down due to the efforts of all of our wonderful staff there. So the next part of that program is to take it out of the shelter and into our city, which means helping spay and neuter animals that are private pets. And so currently we have a program with funding for low-income families. If you'd like to inquire about that program, you can receive a voucher from the shelter, but that will also assist in, of course, limiting our number of unwanted animals here in our city. So would appreciate your help getting that word out. And if you know someone that's interested, please just have them reach out to the shelter at 297-7387, and we'd be glad to get you that information and hooked up. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gamboa.
Good evening, everyone. I'll try not to talk as long as Mr. Carpenter, but first and foremost, I would like to really thank Ms. Laura Hill and her team for applying to so many grants for us and just doing what's best for our city. Thank you to the Diversity and Inclusion Committee for allowing me to walk in the MLK Parade, and thank you to everyone who participated. It truly was an honor getting to witness history, and thank you to Congressman Moran for coming out, and I had the pleasure of being behind the beautiful Miss Amanda Veazey, one of our honorees, and Mr. Clint Holmes. So thank you for what you're doing in our community. We need your input. Advance Longview, an economic development strategy. Go to the LeadCo page, our city page, or my page to give us your input on what you think will make our city better. The Super Bowl of Caring is taking place. Guess what? The deadline is 2 days before Valentine's Day. What a better way to show that you love your community than to bring canned goods and non-perishables to the Longview Community Ministries to help those in need. So I want to see as many cans as you can dropped off there. And praying for Southeast Texas, I really would like to extend my prayers and well wishes to all our friends in Southeast Texas as they attempt to get their lives back together after a terrible weather event. So just know that we're praying for you over here in East Texas. And sorry to steal your thunder, Tim, but thank you, Aspire Mentoring, for everything you do for our community. We greatly appreciate you. Thank you, guys.
Mr. Pirtle?
Yes, I just want to reiterate what some of the other members have said. Had a real good day on MLK Day. I learned a lot. I enjoyed the opening of Broughton, and I thought we as a council did real well together. So I appreciate y'all inviting me.
Mr. McPhee?
Yes, Mayor, Council, January 17th, we actually got to have a 10-year breakfast, and this is one of the best things that we do is we eat breakfast with the employees as they celebrate their milestones with the city. So the first people we have with celebrating 5 years of experience with the city is Wesley Hale, Sherry Stanley, and Randall Collier. With 10 years of experience, we have Beverly Chalk, Gary Pittman, Robert Francis, Lisa Davis, and Stephen Ha. And with 35 years, we have Cindy Beasley. So I just want to thank them for their service. I have one last thing that it's with mixed emotions tonight that I'm going to let everyone know that the Director of Parks and Recreation, Scott Karam, will leave the city at the end of February to serve as a full-time recreation consultant. I'll be honest, we're really sad to lose Scott. He's a valued team member, but we're really excited for Scott in the next chapter that he has. He's been consulting on the side since 2017, and a really interesting opportunity arose for him. The person that he was actually offered his first time internship while at college is retiring for the company from a company he owns, and Scott is actually getting to replace his mentor. And if that's not enough to boot, he's actually going to be working with a former Missouri swim team teammate of that team. So Longview's park systems have continued to grow since Scott arrived in 2015. He helped increase sports tourism. He's brought activities to parks. He's built a great team that serves our community. He's played a key role in identifying those bond projects that were presented and in completing those that have revitalized our parks in recent years. Scott, we'll all miss you, but I wish him only the best as you take this next step in your career. And I just want everybody to know we're super grateful because he and his family love Longview enough that they've chosen to remain here in our community and what we have to offer. So Scott, good luck to you, and thank you for everything you've done for our community.
No doubt, Scott, will really be missing you, but we thank you for your service, and you've been a huge asset to bring us forward from where you started to where we are today, and we'll always be grateful for you. So thank you so much, and best of luck to you, and we know you'll do great, and we have no doubt about that. Thank you, sir. Okay, it's time for our annual scholarship contest, and the applicants are the same as they always have been. Have to be a graduating senior from Longview, Hallsville, Pine Tree, or Spring Hill. You have to write a one-page essay. And this year, the topic is changed. Usually I have something to do with what can you do to make Longview better? What have you done to deserve? Okay, so I'm tired of reading those things. I want to read something different. This year, write a one-page essay on whatever you want to write on. It's an open topic. You have to impress me, so I can't wait to see what we get. I'm excited about that. Boards and commissions, we're once again looking for people to serve on our boards and commissions. For more information or to apply, visit longviewtexas.gov/boards. And our Parks Master Plan, we've officially launched our process to update the Parks Master Plan. You can learn more and give feedback on our park system now to help us develop the plan that will guide the city's park department for a decade. Visit longviewtexas.gov/parksmasterplan to learn more. And Miss Laura and all your team, thank you for a wonderful, successful Homeless Resource Day today. Those that need it most appreciate it the most, and we appreciate you and all y'all's hard work for what y'all did. And one last item. You all know that the football playoffs are in gear, and we have one of our very own, Trent Williams, playing this weekend for the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC Championship game. And we want to wish Trent the best of luck. Besides being our hometown guy, he's probably the best offensive lineman to ever play in the history of the NFL. And we are so proud of him. We wish him the very best and hope that the 49ers pull it through so we can wish him well in the Super Bowl. We've had a couple of guys from Longview playing in the Super Bowl, and we hope he's the next one to do so. Jamichael Hasty was playing last week, and his team didn't advance, but we're fortunate to have wonderful athletes from Longview who represent us so very well at the pinnacle of their sports, doing what they do best. So best of luck, Trent. We'll be cheering for you. With that, we are adjourned. God bless you all.